Hey developers, today we are looking at Fastify, which is a backend framework very similar to Express, and we're going to find out, should you use Express or should you use Fastify? So I've been looking at Fastify for a while. I've seen a lot of people talk about it. So for example, in the State of JavaScript survey that just came out for 2020, Fastify was actually listed third in the satisfaction, interest, and usage in backend JavaScript frameworks. See here, it's right under Next.js and Express. So I think a lot of people are looking at this. If you want, people keep on asking me, why would you want to use Fastify versus Express? A couple of reasons you may want to look at it, and you may want to watch this tutorial all the way to the end, because we're going to actually create an application in it, is because Fastify does some things really well. It's really fast, as you can see here. It leverages the experience to Node.js performance. So their benchmarks show it very, very fast. There's been some negative stuff about Express being sent out recently. I still love Express.js. I use it in a lot of different projects, but a lot of people are saying it hasn't been maintained as much. Like the last major version was a few years ago, and it's a low scope framework, and there's a lot of alternatives that have been worked on more. So you may want to take a look at Fastify just to see if it's going to suit you. Now, I will say that if you are in the Express bandwagon and you're kind of reluctant because there's a lot of Express middlewares out there, you can actually use something called Fastify Express, which allows you to kind of pull in Express compatibility into Fastify. So it's almost like you're running Express completely. It's very similar though. So let's go ahead and take a look at an app, and let's see how you can get started in it. First, also, I'll put a link in the description below to this app that we're creating, and you can follow along. We're gonna go pretty quickly, so feel free to pause, fast forward. I'll put timestamps below here as well, so you can kind of jump to different sections if you need to do that. And also, I'm gonna turn off my camera. All right, so I have a blank VS Code project right here. I have nothing running. And so I think the first thing to do is to just get up and running here. So I'm gonna open up my terminal, and by the way, I put the terminal on the right-hand side. I don't know. I think I like it a little bit better, but we'll see. So first, I'm just in an empty folder. I'm gonna do an npm init, and I'm just gonna hit enter all the way through. So I'm gonna have a blank package.json, and I need to install a few things. So obviously, I want to install Fastify, which is gonna be the app that we're gonna use. I'm gonna install Faker, and I'll show you guys later why I don't want to use that. I'm also going to use Fastify AutoLoad, which I'll talk about that later, and Fastify plugin. So we're going to actually create a plugin using Fastify, which for you guys coming from the Express world, you'll notice that it's very similar to the Express middleware that you guys might have seen in the past. We're also inside this tutorial, we're going to be using ESM instead of CommonJS. If you look at the documentation a lot of the docs are using CommonJS, so you're using requires, things like that. I thought it'd be fun to try to do this all using ESM because I really like ESM and it supports it. That's a nice thing with Fastify too. It supports TypeScript. It has really great TypeScript support. It supports obviously the CommonJS format, which uses requires, and it works with ESM. Now, if you're confused on what these different terms are, just don't worry. We're going to use it like normal, like web development, ECMAScript modules, and we're going to use Node 14 on this, so it should work really well. Now, if you guys are not familiar with this, you have to, if you want to use ESM in a Node project, you have to add this type equals type here, and then put module is what you want to do, and then that just makes sure that you have type. It'll recognize it as a Node project that's going to use ESM, so we can do imports the correct way. Cool. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and create our app.js file. And the first thing we want to do, don't worry about my ESLint. Just a plugin I have, I should say. So the first thing we want to do then is to import in Fastify. So we're going to import Fastify from Fastify, and now we should be able to create a server and load it, and this gonna look really familiar if you've done Express. So we can do this, and by the way, I also installed an extension called Fastify right here, Fastify code snippets. So we might use this. It helps you just kind of really quickly create Fastify stuff. So if I do for this first one, I won't though. So we're just gonna load it like normal. So we do Fastify. Oh, by the way, one other thing we have to do, I'm gonna call this Fastify equals Fastify as a function. And now we should be able to do fastify.get. We're gonna just get the root. And by the way, one nice thing that Fastify has that Express, from what I've seen, doesn't work as well, is it has you can do async functions in it, which is really cool. So we're gonna do async here. We're gonna call function, and usually what they call it in Express, you have request and response, but really in Fastify they call it request and reply. And so that's what you want in here. So this is your callback function. And we can just return a hello world. Let's just see if we can get it working here. Now we also need to create a server. So we'll do Fastify listen. We'll put it on port 3000. And then we can just do console log running on port 3000. And if we did that all correctly, I should be able to do node, my app file, and see if it works. Okay, it says it's running on port 3000. And we'll open up localhost 3000. Cool, there it is, hello world. So we have hello world there. And yeah, it seems to be working correctly. So we can do a few other things too. I'm going to, we have Fastify get. Of course, we have Fastify post. And if I use my handy dandy snippet creator from that extension, you can see here it's very similar. You just put the path in. There's also delete and then put as well, and there's a few ways of doing this too. I just showed you the way, kind of the smaller way of doing it with less code. But if you look at the routes here, you can do it a couple of different ways. You can do this Fastify route, which is kind of a much larger way of doing it. You can put in the method, URL, and the schema, which we'll talk about in a little bit later. But the shorthand declaration is what I'm using, which I think just works really well for this demo. We can also import into different places. So let's see here. I'm going to create a new folder. So I'm going to create a test folder, and inside it, I'm going to create put a route.js file. And so in this file, we can create our own routes and then import them into our app file. So to do that, the easiest way to do that is to export default. So you have to always create a function around it. And then we have Fastify and options. And then we can use our fget. Remember, that's exactly what I wrote before. And we'll put in a path. So we'll just put in, I don't know, /Erik. And we can then return something. So by the way, when we're returning it, it automatically adds in a 200 as a normal request, but we can kind of do it the Express way too if we wanted to. Instead of just returning a string or an object, if it sees an object, it'll automatically return the type as application JSON, which is really cool. But we could just do reply dot, and this is all. You can see here, I don't have any auto completion here, so there's a way of doing this. So I mentioned it has TypeScript support, so let's add that in here. So this is a part of JS docs, if you're not familiar with that, but we can basically quickly add types to this without having to really like make it a TypeScript file. So I'm going to import Fastify. I'm going to use this Fastify. Let's see here. I think it's Fastify instance. Okay, so now my reply should have something back. So if I go down, cool. So I have call, code. I have all the different responses. So I can do code. I don't know. I can do a 200. And then I can send text with it, like got to Erik route. So this is just another way of doing it. Now I've created this new route called /Erik, and I should be able to import it in to my app file. So to do that, I'll have to use this Fastify register. So I'm going to use Fastify register, and I'm going to import in. And this is where I can import in directly from where it's at. So I think we're in /test/route.js. And then it should be fully registered. So if we look back here, I have to stop and restart my server. And let's see if we did this right. So localhost 3000 / Erik. Oh, I got ERIK. I didn't misspell my own name. IK. Cool. So now we're in the Erik route. Nice. So now we've been able to add routes in pretty easily. But what happens if there's another really cool thing we can do. We can auto-register routes if we wanted to. So we don't have to continuously import them in. Let's say we wanted to have multiple levels and layers. There's also other ways you can do this, and you can put more additional options in here. You can like prefix. Yeah, I believe prefix is one of them. But let's say we want to try to autoload. Now, Fastify has a whole plugin system. If you look at their ecosystem on the top of their webpage, you can see they have tons of plugins. And we're going to use this one called AutoLoad. They also have ones for auth. They have ones that you definitely want to use. And I already installed AutoLoad. So let's see if we can get AutoLoad working. So I'm going to import a few things in here. First, I want to import in. And by the way, I did this syntax with import here. You could also, I could have also imported in like this route from, you know, whatever the test is / index, or what would I call it, route.js, and then instead of using the import here, I could have used route. And if I stop and start my server, which I guess I can make this bigger, and I go back to here, refresh it, cool, still working. So it works just the same way. That was just a quick way of doing it instead of doing it that way. Cool. All right, but let's look at auto routes. It's going to take a little bit of setup, but I'm going to import in some files here. I'm going to import this dir name join from path, and I'm going to import in file URL to path from URL. And then I have to do this. It's basically setting up a way for it to set up the paths correctly. And this is right in the autoloader documentation. So don't worry about what this crazy code's doing. And we're just setting up some directories. And we're going to have this file name here. And now we can import. Let's do this. Import in AutoLoad from Fastify AutoLoad. Sweet. And now we should be able to use it. So now we just need to register it. So we'll do Fastify register. So anytime you have plugins or you're using any of these third-party libraries, you have to do this .register. We're gonna do AutoLoad, and we're gonna do dir, and we're gonna put in the first parameters, the dir name, and then auto. You can do the same thing. We can auto-load plugins too. So if I did this correctly, well, this is gonna be actually the name of the structure. So let's call it routes. And if I did this correctly, I should be able to use a new folder here. So I'm going to create one called routes. And the way it works is the index file is like you can make this be the root route. So once again, I got to do export default function async function, and it's going to have a request. Actually, it's going to have a Fastify options. Fastify options. And now we'll do our handy dandy fget again. We're gonna make this the root. And we're just gonna return hello from root. Now it's probably gonna complain because we have already a root right here. So I'm just going to, well, this is Erik. We don't have anything in root, I guess. So that should work. Let's take a look. Oops, actually we have this Fastify get here. Let me comment that out. And let's see if I can start it. Oops, and one other thing, we have to move this outside the imports because it doesn't like it. Now we can run it. Cool, so now it's running import 3000. If I refresh it, okay, it works. And if I go to the root, hello from root. Nice. So now we have created our own auto-loading routes here. So if I wanted to create a new route, so I can create let's say I wanted to create a route called Bob. I can create a route called Bob, and I'm just going to copy and paste this from this side here. And oops, let me try that again. Let's see here. Yoink. And paste. And this one will say hello from Bob. Let's see here. Hello from Bob. And now I should have a hello from Bob route. And I'll stop the server, restart it. And if I go to slash Bob here. Cool, hello from Bob, it still works. Now you've noticed a few times that I've had to stop and restart the server, and that's kind of annoying. Wouldn't it be nice if I had some way to automatically have the server run and have it not having to reload all the time, or have it automatically reload? So there is a cool utility that does that for us, and so that's called Fast CLI. So you can use this Fastify CLI to either generate a whole project, which we won't be doing, but we can use it to create our own server, to start a server. So it's pretty nice. So to install it, you just do npm install. Well, we can take a look right here. You do just like in the documentation, we'll just copy and paste it. And this will install the Fastify CLI globally, and then we can run it directly from the command line. So let's just take a moment. Cool, so it's installed now. And to use it, we can take a look. We can do Fastify, and it gives you all these options: start, eject. So if you want to look at how start works, you can do Fastify help start, and it gives you a bunch of options here. We can put a port, address, a log level, options, prefix. So let's first take a look at our something we didn't really do, but we can in our app file add logging. To do that, in this Fastify right here, we can add in, I think it's an object, and it's logger true. And so this will make it so it logs to our console. But if you just run it, if you just run the node app.js, like, you get a little bit of logging down here. You can see it looks kind of ugly. But if we want some really cool logging, and by the way, that you don't have to install any plugins to do the logging, which is nice, we can use the Fastify CLI. So you type, I'm going to do this one. It was Fastify. I'm going to use the CLI command, start -w, which means it's going to watch for any changes. It's L for logging. We're going to put it on info. P, which is the location. So we'll just do app.js. I think, hold on, Fastify help start. I think P, I thought, is the lowercase p is the port, and uppercase P, I forgot what it is. Let's see your W. Oh, it's pretty logs. So if you want it nice and pretty. So let's try that again. So Fastify -start -w-l info capital P app.js. Oops. So now we have an error here, and you're like, well, why isn't it working? So you have to do something different here. Instead of having it all in one, instead of having it like this, you actually have to wrap it in a function for it to get it to work. We're gonna wrap this in a function. We're gonna do export default async function, and it's gonna have a Fastify just like it was in that we're exporting from a separate folder here. I'm gonna take all this, and I'm going to hold down this key here and move it up. Cool. Now let's see if it works. So now if we just come back here, we'll load it. All right, now it says we have a server loading on 3000, and it should have this nice, pretty logs for us, and it will auto reload for us. So if I go back to Bob and I reload it, it says hello from Bob, and you can see here I get the requests and all the information on it. Cool. So we're making progress. Now we have we're using the Fastify CLI to autoload, and we have a couple of routes. But I think this is pretty boring. You know what I think would be more cool is if we could create a plugin, and then we can also see how we can manipulate data. And I have something called Faker, and I haven't really used it. So let's create a new folder here, and I'm going to call it, we'll call it plugins, and I'm just going to have an index.js in here. And this plugins folder is going to be where we're going to create some data and then have it available throughout our app. So a nice, really cool thing about Fastify is it doesn't use middleware, but you can kind of create a middleware and it can be accessed anywhere on the Fastify instance. So I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to import FP from Fastify plugin, which we installed a little bit earlier. And I'm going to import Faker, which was another one we installed earlier. And this is going to be able to create fake data. And what I want to do is I want to just create a bunch of fake data for genres of music. So I'm going to create an array of, I don't know, let's do 10. And then I can map it. And this is just a little trickery you can do here to create information really quickly. So we're going to have an ID index. And then the genre should be faker.music.genre. And so this is going to create an array of fake data for fake genres, and we're going to put it right into the genres variable. And we'll just make sure it works. We'll spit it out. And now we can create a plugin. And to do that, we're going to do const plugin, and we're going to do an async function called plugin. And it's going to have Fastify ops, and it has this done. We're not going to use this done, but it's essentially a way to it's a way to stop the plugin. It's almost like the middleware when you're doing next. And then we do this Fastify, and it's called decorate. And this, by the way, this is all in the documentation. And we can call this something we want to grab. So I'm just going to call it music, and I'll show you how you grab it later. And first, I want to say if there's no music, what we want to do. So if you don't pass anything into this function, or if you do pass something in the function, I want you to push into this new genres that we have. So we're going to push in a new object. So we're going to do genres.length. So it's going to be the last one on there, and we'll put in val. But otherwise, we're just going to return genres. And then at the bottom, we're going to export default plugin. By the way, we can see this better now. So you can see here, all this is doing is we're using faker data. We're creating a genres, basically 10 fake genres. And then we're using this FP, which is this plugin, Fastify plugin. This should be available throughout the app. We're creating Fastify decorate. So this is like a special function that we're going to be able to access everywhere. And if someone actually passes in a value, it pushes it. Otherwise, it just returns it. So let's see if we can use this. So now what we need to do next is go back to our app.js file, and then we need to register it inside this file. Otherwise, it may never work. So to do that, we can run this command here, which would be Fastify register. Fastify register, and we're going to go import. We're just gonna use the command line, and we're gonna go back here. We're gonna stop it. I'm just going to go in and move it this way. Where is it? I'm gonna move plugins to one row folder down. Cool. And then I'm gonna run my Fastify again. All right, so now it's in the right place. So let's see here. We'll import plugins / index.js. So now it should be available throughout the app. And if we go into our index.js, instead of this, well, let's go to this routes one right here. Instead of just returning hello from root, let's see if we can return all the values. So we should be able to grab it. So I'm going to const genres equals. Now to get it, you have to do Fastify and then whatever you called it. So we called it music. And it's already like onside that Fastify instance. So now we should be able to send it. And once again, we don't have to do anything here. It should work. And we might have to stop and restart the server for it to see the new plugin. Okay, I found the issue. You actually, since I registered this after I registered the AutoLoad, it doesn't see it. So I just have to make sure I put it above the AutoLoad. And if I run it again, then it is running. Cool. And it says all the server is running. And it looks like all the faker data got there. So if we bring it here and run it, yep, there it is. Here is all our information all the way up to 9. So we have all our IDs, we have all our different genres of music showing up, which is pretty cool. So let's do a few things. Let's delete this Bob folder. I don't need it any longer. Let's actually do this. It won't let me delete it right now, so let me stop the server. Let me try to delete it now, because it's probably being loaded. Cool, so now it's deleted. Now I can restart my server. And now let's have this index.js. Let's be the folder where we're going to grab all our Fastify music and show it. So we want to first, let's see if we can show the first one. Let's see if we can grab the first item based on the URL that we send over. So if you send a 1 over, that'll do it. And if you send 2 over, it'll grab the second one, and so on and so forth. So to do that, let's see here. We're going to leave this one here. And let's grab another one, but this time to do dynamic IDs, it's just like Express. We're going to do slash, we'll do slash and ID. And to retrieve the information we need, we'll need to do a little bit of searching for it. So I'm going to create, we'll call it genre. And this genre we'll do a genres.find. And we'll have a ID here, and we'll call it genre. And where this will do, we're genre.id equals, and then to grab the information out of the request object, by the way, I'm gonna put plus right here. I'm gonna do request.params.id. And we'll see here if that works. And we'll probably, just to be safe, we'll put it in a try catch block. So that way if it doesn't find it, we'll be okay. And if it finds it, we'll return the genre. Else we'll catch it, and we can then return something. So I'm going to do reply.code 404, and I'm going to send not there plus the error. So now we should be able to grab individual ones. So I'm going to go to 3000 here and put 2 in. Cool. So it looks like it grabbed the electronic one. If I put 4 in here, now it says world. Awesome. So now we've been able to grab all of them or individual ones. So let's say we want to grab in post. Let's say if we wanted to like add ones to the list here. So that should be easy, or it should be, but we'll see here. Let's do a f.post, and once again we'll put it right here. And this time we need to grab information out of the body. So to do that, we can grab it like this. We're going to grab the genre. We're going to assume that someone is going to make the request like this, by the way. So we'll assume that the request will look like this with genre and then some genre music name, and it'll be a type post. And then if we will say if they don't pass any genre, we'll just reply with, once again, code 404, and then we'll send not found. And then we'll grab the, we'll basically add that to the list. And so we'll return the list of genres. And we'll do Fastify music again. And this time we'll pass in that genre that they sent us. And we'll return the list of genres. So what this should do is it'll be able to post and add. Basically, it's a way to add stuff to it. Now to test this, there's a couple ways to test this, but I kind of like this way. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to create a new file in my root. So I can put in the test folder if I wanted to, but let's say new file, and I'm going to call it test.htp. So I have a plugin extension called REST. It's called REST Client, and it allows you to do RESTful client information. Basically, you can do HTTP requests, but it's a little simpler than maybe using something like Postman or curl at this point. And I have some examples I have on another screen, which I'm going to copy and paste inside here. So if I wanted to just do a post request, I just need to do this. So what this is saying is do a post to localhost 3000, localhost 3000, and we'll do slash, yeah, we'll just do localhost 3000. I'm gonna save this. Let's try it again. Okay, cool. I think it did okay. So return back 200 application JSON. Remember, this is all built in. We didn't have to do anything. And cool, it added bluegrass in at the bottom. And if I come back here, and it looks like it added in 10. Cool, it's already in there as bluegrass. So we have been able to add in that new endpoint, and it seems to be working correctly. That's really awesome. We can also, if we wanted to, we could add deletes and puts, but I don't think that's necessary. One other thing I think is kind of neat, and the last thing I'll show you guys, is there's this other option for schema. So we can do schema validation on here to only have it return certain things or have it work a certain way. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to create something called post options, and I'm going to create a schema here. And it's going to be in our body. We're going to assume that we only accept. There we go. And we're going to do a required, and that's going to be a type of genre. And then we can tell it basically what to expect for the genre. So it should be type string, and we have to put that in quotes. And now I can add in this post options to any of these. Well, in this case, it'll be this post options. It's the second parameter. So I'm going to put post options. And if I did this right, it should kind of add us some guards so things won't break on us. So my server's still running. I'm going to try this test HTTP. And if I don't include the genre and save it, and then I try to send this, it says bad request. Body should have required property genre. So it's already adding like some validation for us out of the schema, which is really cool. We can also do the response as well. So I only have, let's go back here. I only added in this schema for the body, but look at this. I can add in response. I could say on every 200 response, we should assume we're getting a type array back. And then we'll have items. And you have to have this items because it's type array. Otherwise, we'd be able to just do everything we need. And let's do type object. And now we can set the properties. So this properties, we have a genre, and we have type string. So we could basically say every response, instead of sending the ID and genre, just send the genre only back. So if we do this, we go back to our test HTTP. This one right here, and we send again. You can see here, body should require property genre. Oops, let's add that back in. We'll save it, and we'll send it. Cool, so now it looks like it only spent genres back. So it basically not just did validation, but it actually changed the output for us as well. So and if we want to put ID back in, we just put in ID, and then we just have to put in the type. Number. I need to put in braces around it. Cool, so should be running again. Perfect. If I go to test HTTP and send again, now I'm getting the numbers back as I expected. Sweet. Also, I have this really cool video. This last person did this very similar app but used CommonJS, so check it out.